Hello, everybody. Jordan DeCarey here with At the Apex, episode number 4. We have the Canadian National Amateur Sport Bike Champion, Laurent Laliberte-Girard. That's right. I said the National Amateur Sport Bike Champion, not support class, because we call them what they are, which is a national champion. Super excited to have him on the show today, hear about all of his success in 2024, and hear about the plans for 2025. While I have your attention, please hit the like button, share, comment. Really lets us know that what we're doing is a good thing. We want to continue to bring you the people that make this sport awesome. Welcome, everybody. Today I have with me 2024 Amateur Sport Bike Champion, CSBK Amateur Sport Bike Champion, Laurent Laliberte-Girard. How was that?
Yeah, that was really good.
Okay, good. So we're off to a good start. A guy with a French last name, you'd think he would do better. I'm sorry, guys, ahead of time. I'm doing my best. English only. I'm not a French guy, unfortunately. I wish I was. So, welcome to episode 4 of At the Apex, Lauren.
Thanks
Thank
a
you so
lot.
much for being here.
Well, thanks a lot, Jordan. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for the invitation for real.
It's pretty exciting to have our 2024 National Sport Bike Champion here. I'm super grateful for you to be a part of our episode number 4 of At the Apex. You've had a very exciting 2024 season. Can we go back to, let's start with May of 2024. So, opening round. Were you planning on doing a full CSBK national season at that point?
At first, not at all. I wasn't supposed to do that. And my first plan was to try the R6 because I've never been on that modern bike before. So I was like, okay, let's just try the bike. And it was supposed to be a preparation year for this season to try to get the first place. But ends up like I've been to the top at the end of the season. So I never thought that would end up like that.
So you mentioned this is your first season on a modern bike. I do recognize the bike and I want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah,
Um, you're on an R6, right?
exactly. A 2008 R6.
Okay, so I recognize the bike from previous years. Can you explain, the previous riders to that bike? He's well known around the paddock, so I want you to talk about that.
Well, the story is I was looking for a bike, especially for an R6, and then I was looking on Marketplace and everything, and then I ended up on Martin Richard R6, and I've always been number 357. So when I saw number 57, I look at that bike and I said, man, that's gonna be my bike for sure. Because the colors, I loved it. The number plates, I didn't have to do nothing with it because everything was there. So it was just the perfect bike. And when I came to see the bike with Martin, it was during the winter. I couldn't try it, obviously, because of the snow. But into the garage, we done a little bit of stuff, and we just started up, and that bike was perfect. And I said to him, man, that I really want that bike. So we end up with a really good deal, and both of us were happy. And he let me so much for the spares part and everything. I was so glad that he gave me that. Thanks again, Martin, for everything, for the bike and everything.
That's very cool. That bike in my novice amateur year, 2021, 2022, I had some pretty exciting battles with Martin, and he actually helped me out quite a bit in the pits, giving me some of those things I'm new to racing. It was extremely helpful to have his veteran experience explain some things. He was very helpful to somebody that was just starting out. So you have the R6. You were previously doing what for racing?
what I was doing before, and I'm still doing it in the meantime. I'm a racer from the VRRA, the Vintage Road Racing Association. So it's just a bunch of old bikes with people that just want love to race, but not as a competitive way. There's a little bit of competition for sure, because there's some good names in it. Like last season we had Francis Martin. Yeah. Do have like ex-champion into the VRA like Francis Martin. We do have a lot of bunch we have a bunch of guys that are really fast. And I joined this club in 2020 during post-COVID season. So we only had one race. So I started there. I didn't knew how to put the knee on the ground. I didn't knew nothing at all. And I just went there and I did my first endurance race. That's where I learned to put my knee on the ground. And then how it works with that association, they do a format of Friday's practice with endurance racing. The Saturday is practicing, and after that, qualifications. So I end up in qualification dead last because I was starting there, and then I finished my qualification fifth on my first ever qualification. So because it's a format of sprint racing, so that was really nice. And then during the Sunday race, from fifth to third. So on my first ever racing weekend, I did my first podium into my category. That was really awesome.
And at that point, were you hooked into racing? Was that the point where you said, okay, I'm doing this, like I'm going all in?
Well, it's been a lot of years that I've watched my father race, and then after that, it was the best buddy of my father that we were joining him just to see him race at the VRRA. And then sometimes my father brought me to the CSBK rounds. So I was always into the motorcycle world before. So I've always watched, and I was like, I want to try. So the deal with the GPZ, I only got it for 1,000 bucks, only that. So that was really a cheap bike. It wasn't perfect, not at all. But I got the bike. We did a lot of modifications on it, and that's how it ends up. It was white at first, and then I ends up with the Eddie Lawson replica on it.
Very cool. Okay, so 2020 you do VRRA.
Yeah.
What transpires between 2020 to being 2024 national champion? Those 4 years, what took place there?
Well, a lot of practicing track days, and then also I always had just a special part with Shannonville. Because Shannonville, as I told you, was my first racing weekend. That's the first time I put the knee on the ground. And it's not only, yeah, I did my first podium there, but it's never always perfect. So as you can remember, in 2021, I went with you guys to the Super Series. I end up there. I registered the Wednesday and the Thursday I was there, and I wasn't supposed to be there at all. And I ended up with my GPZ there. I didn't have enough money to buy some tires. That's how bad it was. And I was just like, no, I want to race, so I'm going there. And Friday was quite good, and my goal wasn't to beat you guys. My goal was to beat the VRA lap record of the Nelson track. That was 101.5. So I wanted that lap record to be beaten by me. So during the Saturday qualification, I wasn't used to the format of you can hop on and off the track whenever you want. So I was just on the track all the time. And I was registered for three qualification, and they were both all those three qualification were back to back. So that was really hard. And after the third qualification, at the end of the session, I did what I shouldn't have done, a mistake, and I did high side and broke my collarbone on that one. So nothing is perfect for a first time, but that was my first broken bone at Shannonville.
Oof. I do recall that weekend. Did you come back that same day and come back to the
Yep.
racetrack? Yeah. That's a tough break. And the Nelson track, I mean, it's the shortest layout of all of the Shannonville layouts. And it's a tough technical. track, right? So it does take a lot of laps to get, get the rhythm and get the pace. And doing, three qualification sessions in a row, I feel like it was, if I remember correctly, it was a very, very warm weekend too. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I
so
remember.
it takes a lot out of you wearing the leathers and only going around the infield of that track. You don't get much time to rest or any air to cool you down.
No, but it was really, really hard onto the physic to do those three qualification. And if my memory is good, it was around 40 degrees outside field, 43, 44. So I was really, really pushing. I was always on the slide and everything. And I remember following Isvan. Isvan, that is a really good racer with you and really sweet guy. And I was like, man, that's my target. That's another target. Ends up, I was less than a second of the lap record of the VRA. So I was really happy on that. And as you mentioned, I've came back the same day to the racetrack, and my father was like, we gotta go. And I said, no, we're at the racetrack. I'm gonna sleep here, even with my broken collarbone and a swollen ankle because my ankle took a really good hit. I said, no, we're gonna stay at the racetrack. I want to see races tomorrow because no way I did all of that and I end up going home without doing nothing.
That's true dedication, and I'd say you definitely have the bug, so to speak. You're hooked, right? You wanted to stay there, watch the racing, and be a part of the action. Okay, so
Exactly.
that was 2021.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so between 2021 and let's go to 2024. So you did a lot of track days in between there, some VRRA in between. Then you pick up this R6 from Martin Richard, a really well sorted out R6. What was your first national weekend like at Shannonville in May?
Well, I'll just go 1 week prior the weekend of CSBK because that something happened there that wasn't supposed to be happening. I did, yeah, that was my first session, supposed to be my first session with the R6 during the first ever practice session of the year. And the warmers were not ready on my R6. So I decided to hop on my GPC because the prior year, the 2023 season, I did won three championships with the VRA. So I was like, okay, I know that bike very well. I know how to handle the situation with it and everything. So let's just hop on the bike and have some fun. Just for one session, just to break the ice. So after three laps, the worst happened to me during into the chicane of the pro layout. The seal of the shifting rod came loose and spilled some oil onto my rear tire. So as a lot of guys knows that the chicane you go into it really really fast. So with oil on my rear tire, the worst happened. I sat it there, and I do remember I had a lot of pain, but into my head I was like, no, no, no way. I'm gonna end up my season after three laps of practicing. How can I crash on three after three laps? At first, I didn't knew there was oil on my rear tire because I was like, I didn't rev it up too much. I know how to handle with the this section of the track. So I don't know what happened. And then my father take a look and he said, you got some oil on your rear tire. So that's the reason why you crashed. And I do remember on that day, I went all by myself to the local the drug store. Yeah. I went there all by myself, grabbed some Advils, grabbed something to support my ankle, and then going to a shop, a local store, buying an helmet, going back to the racetrack. And the whole weekend I did my own physio by myself, and I did receive some help from Kana that did the interview with you few episodes before. I was like, thanks a lot, Kana. I didn't even knew her, and she came with ice. She was like, "Are you all right?" I said, "Well, I feel okay, but thanks a lot for the ice." So the full weekend, she supported me with ice on my ankle. That was so sweet from her. Thanks again to her. And then that's how it started this season with my shoulder that was I couldn't even barely lift up my arm. Like I that was the max I could go. So as you can see, I was stuck there. I couldn't go higher with that shoulder. And my left ankle, I had a huge sprain with it, my left ankle. So that was a pretty rough start of the season.
But how did you finish your first two races of the season, the nationals? Because I had a look at your standings. You had a pretty outstanding year. How did your two races go at Shannonville with that sore ankle and shoulder?
Well, I wasn't expecting nothing at all. I was just going there for just full fun because I could barely walk. So I was like, okay, I did already paid for my entries and stuff, and everything was planned. So I was like, just hop on a track and have some fun, even with my ankle and my shoulder. So end up there. Qualification fit, I've qualified 11th, and I couldn't explain what happened onto the bike, but during my race, my first race during amateur sport bike, after like 3 or 4 laps, I was sitting like ninth, something like that. And everything clicked through my head. And I remember telling myself onto the back straight, everyone's going slow right now. I can go even faster than that. So I start getting some positions. So going from 9 to 8, 8 to 7. And I do remember I was getting high up. I was like, oh, yeah, yeah, let's go, let's go, let's go. And when I was fifth, I do remember seeing my father, my best friend, and all the guys on the side of the wall cheering for me because I it's not because I wasn't paying attention to the racetrack, but it was hyping me more, watching them cheering for me. So I was pushing more, and then going from fourth, and the just to see the guys like that, just cheering for me. And then when I did my pass into corner one for the first place, I was so happy and everything, but I was like, I gotta stay focused. I gotta stay focused for the rest of the race because I only had two lap remainings onto that race. And when we crossed the white flag, not the black and white, I do remember. I do have a picture into my head. I see everyone cheering, and onto the background, I see Maverick Sear, the champion of the year before, behind and just showing that you just gotta think, play with your head, not with the emotions. So I start focusing way more, and I end up finishing first on my first ever race of CSBK while being really injured.
And just to clarify, you started the race in what position?
11th
So from 11th to first.
while being injured. Yeah,
That's extremely impressive on your first race. That's pretty amazing if you think about the amount of work that you put in, and it's a short period of time. It was pro track, right?
exactly,
So you don't have a ton of laps in the amateur class to come around all those people. So you're making, a pass a lap essentially to get to that first place.
exactly,
Extremely impressive. So you finished first and then a second place, correct, at Shannonville.
exactly.
Your first national race weekend, which is absolutely amazing. A little bit of a layover to Grand Bend. How did Grand Bend go?
Well, it wasn't. It was my second time going to that track. I did this 600 hours endurance race over there. So that was the only time I've went to that track. It was the same layout, so at least I knew a little bit of the track. And qualification wasn't so bad. I think I was sixth, if my memory is good. And ends up my first race, I finished third. So I was like, okay, that's good. I'm still into the championship, but that's not perfect. And then the second race, it was something else because I was pushing way more, end up finishing first. So that was another good victory for me to get another first place into the second weekend. So that's really good.
That's fantastic. And then after Grand Bend, we make the trip to Edmonton, which hasn't
Yeah.
been on the schedule for some time. So have you had any experience at Edmonton?
I never went to Edmonton for my whole life. The furthest I went was Grand Bend into the west side.
Okay, so how did your weekend in Edmonton go? It's pretty well new for everybody. So how did that play out?
Well, it wasn't really good for me because I didn't have a great feeling on my front. I do remember that because I was pushing a little bit too much my front wheel. So because of my injury, I couldn't get off the bike with a normal racing position. So I was tugged into the bike, even into the corner. So I had to do the vintage version of going off the bike because of my shoulder. So that was really, really hard for that front wheel to stay in. But I did manage to get to third place. So that was really good, but it wasn't perfect for me. Serge did had a really good gap on me on that one because he got two first place on that one.
So at that point in the season, so you just finished Edmonton, was there any pressure on you? Did you feel like you were pressured going into, you go from the West, now you're going all the way back to the East Coast doing Shubenacadie. What did that feel like to you?
That was really hard on the budget and really hard on everything because you gotta prepare yourself to go from a side of the country to the other side. And into the meanwhile, I'm still doing some VRA races. So it's quite hard the in between those, but it's it's doable. It's really doable.
Shubenacadie, what was that like? It looks like a roller coaster. I haven't been there. I've watched the onboard and watched the races. What was that like compared to the other tracks here in Ontario?
As you said, it's a roller coaster. It's even more bump. They got even more bumps than Shannonville. The layout is awesome. I can get it. That's their layout is really, really, really awesome. But it was a nightmare weekend for me because during the Thursday practice, I nearly destroyed my bike. I don't know how I ended up high siding into the grass, but I stayed on my feet. I never touched the ground. The only thing that touched the ground were my feet and one hand. I never slide nothing, but I did flip into the air, like into the movies. So that was really good. But when I took a look behind, I just saw my bike flipping. I was like, oh no. Oh, that's gonna be hard. And that was the only weekend my father wasn't with me. That was another one of my buddy that was with me. We did wrench for 14 hours onto the bike. That was so painful with the weather, with the rain and stuff. That wasn't pleasant at all. And I qualified dead last because after like 30 minutes before the qualification session, we did finish wrenching on the bike. So mentally, I wasn't ready. Physically, I was tired. So I went there, qualified dead last, ended up finishing fifth on both races. So that was really good for a comeback. It was a 13 guy grid. So that was good, but not enough for a championship. So Serge did got a really good gap in between me and him after Shubinakadi.
So after Shuby, we come back to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. I know there's some mixed conditions there that weekend. How did that go?
Okay. So qualification wasn't really good for me. I did finish, I think was 13. And first race, I was I was into it, but not perfectly. And on the unofficial result, I did finish fifth. But the problem is, after one of the buddy of my father called him and said, "Your son just finished second," and he said, "No, he finished fifth." And then we look at the official result. The guy who finished first, second, and third got disqualified for mixing gas. So I did the mistake once during qualification at Edmonton. They caught me with wrong fuel. You start dead last because it was during qualification. So I said to myself, I'll never do that mistake again. And that paid off for me. And the second race, it wasn't on the ring. And Serge didn't have the time to get his tire changed. I barely had enough time to do it because my buddy Rob Massicotti just gave me his tires and rim. And he said, "You got a championship on the line, just hop on the track." So that was my real first time onto the rain, and I did end up, I think, was fifth, something like that. So that was really good for me.
That's impressive, and especially at a track like CTMP where, there's very, very small margin for error. So that's quite impressive. So coming into the final round, it's a long season, sixth and final round at Shannonville. What was the point spread like? Like how close were you guys in the championship at that point?
We were 14 points in between. So I knew I only had to win. That was the only option to win the championship. So going into the qualification, that was the first time of the year that I've beat Surge into qualification. I did manage to get the second place. Thanks Scott Salas for your lines because I did follow them to get those lines. And after that, first race was onto the rain. So my only real experience of racing onto the rain was Mousport during the rain the last weekend. So I was so stressed, and I do remember talking to John Lang, and asked him, "How is it onto the track?" And he told me, "Few corners are slippery and everything." So I was like, "All right, perfect. Hop onto the track." I was so stressed. I do remember first lap, I nearly high side at least twice because I was really onto the slide. And I do have a picture of my father showing me a gap. And I wasn't sure what was the real gap. Like how far am I on the front line from the other guys? And that's after like 5 laps, I looked behind, I at least had a 10-second gap. So I had talked to him. I said that was the first time I saw that gap, so I didn't knew what was the real gap. Because yeah, I did finish first onto the rain. And the second one, it was just a battle of I need to finish first or second in front of Search. That was the only thing. And at first it wasn't going well, and then I start catching up, getting to second place, and then out of nowhere, Matthew did showed up and he just passed me onto the last lap. I was like, no, 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 that's my championship on the line. You got to stay behind. But I did manage to get that position back. And yeah, that's how I won my amateur sport bike championship on something I wasn't supposed to do.
That's an incredible story, and you mentioned, you had a bunch of people helping you along the way. Take a few minutes. We have 4 minutes left, so take a few minutes to tell us about all those people that helped you and your plans for 2025, if you can.
Well, I would like to thanks a lot Tactical Product Canada. He was my main sponsor of last season. He's gonna stay with me for this season, so I thanks a lot. That's why I do have his hat over here. After that, for this season, I'll have some help from 88 Moto. So Tasso, thanks a lot you for helping me out. And this season, I'll be racing the full season with Super Series, VRA, and CSBK. So Tasso, our plan is to win the Pro Sport Bike Championship with the Super Series now race. And after that, the other ones would be Nadon Sport Saint Eustache. Thanks a lot, guys, for helping me out for this season. After that, I do have Lean Angle. I would like to thank them for the graphic kits and everything. It's gonna be done for the Montreal Motorcycle Show. So thanks a lot for you guys. And after that, I do have to thank my father to stay with me for the whole season, except for one race. So thanks a lot for him and my buddy Felix. Thanks a lot for real. You did a great job at Shubi to repair that bike. That was way too much a job for you and me, but we did it. Thanks a lot, man.
So that's really cool. You had such a successful year. You had no expectation going in that you were going to, do as well as you did. I'm sure you picked up a lot of racecraft along the way. Is there any particular racers that helped you out? Any of your competitors?
Well, I would like to thank Serge because he let me learn a lot. Staying behind him and beat him sometimes, he gave me a good time racing against him. Denis Giguère, the guy who finished third into the championship, we had a lot of fun onto the track. As I said before, Scott Zalas also. Thanks a lot for him, for Shannon the last run. And other than that, all the guys that I've raced against last season, that was way too much fun for me. Even in superbikes when I wasn't winning, that was just pure fun for me. That was if I had good battles with you, I do remember that for sure.
Super cool. Well, we are excited to watch you in the 2025 season. If there's anybody out there that's looking to support an up and coming a racer, please reach out. How can people get a hold of you if they're looking to reach out?
Well, this season my plan is to do something new for me and maybe not new for the world, but the racing world in Canada. I want to try to do some vlogging videos. So I'll do it in English for sure to help you out, guys. So sorry for my accent in advance. Sorry for that. But that is my first plan. After that, I'll I'll be on Instagram to share some stories, the little shorts and everything. You can reach me out on Facebook or just onto the paddocks. Just go see me and we're gonna have some fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. We will look for those vlogs. We want to see you vlogging this year at all of those races. And just like that, episode 4 of At the Apex is done. Time flies when you're having fun. I just want to reiterate the success that Laurent had this past season. 9 podiums, 3 first place finishes in 12 races. Pretty impressive stuff from Laurent there. His first year of racing at a national level. We're going to certainly follow up as the season progresses, see how he's doing, and we'll definitely check in with him. I just want to thank everybody for the support again. It means a lot to us. We want to continue to grow this sport, and without your help, that's not possible. And so, thank you very much for being a part of this. I want you to stay tuned. Next week, we have another very special guest. If there's anybody you want to see on the show, please reach out, let me know, send me a message, and we'll make that happen. Thanks so much.